I mentioned that monoacetyl triphosphate might make baking soda obsolete, but like Zach Dancy says, I mean, baking soda will never be obsolete at $2 a box. But I remember running an experiment. I ran, what was it, 20 grams to 30 grams baking soda per day for like a month straight or 2 weeks straight. And then it literally turned my blood black. Right, all the citations are here. You know, where else do you find citations like this? Nowhere, right? Even the clinical trials here. Oh, holy moly. Clinical trials are listed. Parabolic Peptide says, great video and very timely. I just switched from testing diisopropylamine dichloroacetate to monoacetyl tripyrophosphate oral formulation. Yes, I don't really like DADA oral formulation. I feel that the injectable version of DADA is a lot more potent. And yes, we're going to make a deep dive about DADA. Don't you worry. It's in the pipeline. But I feel that the oral formulation of monoacetyl tripyrophosphate works just fine. But I haven't compared it orally versus injectable because I'm not really sure where the injectable can be bought. And I recommend it to MA that you just stick with oral formulations because the oral bioavailability seems to be just working as well. But of course, right, if the oral bioavailability is a little bit less, you get more bang for your buck by using the injectable monoacetyl tripyrophosphate, and you can use it at a lower dose and thus lower costs, then that's probably the route going forward. Because with DADA, I can easily take 500 milligrams orally, but if I inject 50 milligrams, I get a more pronounced effect than 500 milligrams orally. So, yeah, it is what it is. Let's see. Skull says, I can't wait for the premiere. You never did an endurance PD tier list, but based off your videos, I think this might be your number one pick at S tier. Yes, monoacetyl tripyrophosphate is 100% S tier compound, Vigorous Steve approved. This is one of the best compounds that everybody's sleeping on, unfortunately. It makes a huge difference. Everybody that I recommended it to, that are bodybuilders, say it makes a world of difference, especially when you combine it with, you know, the mitochondrial support stack, which also increases your energy levels. Now, if you increase your energy levels with mitochondrial support aids, obviously, you know, your oxygen demand goes up because oxygenation needs to occur when mitochondrial function goes up. And this delivery of oxygen by increasing the oxygen affinity of hemoglobin is really a pronounced effect. So you have these guys that wanted to use monoacetyl tripyrophosphate before a competition because they were a little bit out of breath, and then they hold their own very composed on stage within as little as 2 weeks. So it makes a huge fucking difference. But unfortunately, it's not a very popular compound. Let's see. Parsa Mosavat says, I wonder how crazy the diminishing returns are considering the insanely high dosages in the studies relative to what people anecdotally say they feel. It seems people notice it on like a gram a week orally versus studies taking 10 times the dose intramuscularly. Yeah, but keep in mind, these dosages investigated intramuscularly or intravenous, well, mostly intravenous, right? Mostly intravenous. Man, it's been a while since I did the research. My bad. But there were injectable routes, right? The ITPP was administered injectably. And it's mostly in the context of cancer. So the dosages are going to be a lot higher. And again, for us, we have polypharmacy in place. So we take erythropoietic compounds like testosterone, boldenone, EPO perhaps. That also increases our hematocrit, red blood cell count. And then we eat a lot of beef and we stay relatively healthy. So you can't really compare these medical dosages for people who are unhealthy and have various kinds of medical conditions, including cancer, to people who are otherwise healthy. They pay attention to the lifestyle and they take erythropoietic compounds and they eat a lot of beef, and thus their hematocrit goes up. And then a low dose goes a very long way. And you notice that during the loading phase, within 1 to 2 weeks, it really makes a pronounced difference. And then you can drop down to the maintenance phase. I mean, monoacetyl tripyrophosphate is extremely expensive, even with a discount code, and I believe that MA has it on permanent discount of 10%. So less is more. Yeah, the least amount you can get away with for you to notice a dramatic effect. And for me, that was after the loading phase, 250 milligrams 3 times per week. But I've also heard guys say that they get away with 100 milligrams 3 times per week and that they notice all of the benefits. But you also have people that say that they don't notice anything at all, even if they go up to a gram a day. So again, the same with methylene blue or MOTS-C, individual response is going to be all over the place. If you want to use this compound, just purchase 1 bag or 1 bottle and run it. And if you like the effects, take more. And if you don't notice anything at all, even at higher dosages, then don't purchase it. This is what I did with epicatogen, right? I ramped up the dose to 900 milligrams per day. And then even though I did notice something, it was significantly less compared to YK11 taken orally. And it increased my C-reactive protein levels to cancerous levels. So, one bottle, run the experiment, do your blood work, see if you get a beneficial effect. And if you have adverse effects and the beneficial effects, it doesn't really outweigh, then you only lost the funds for one bottle. So it's not the end of the world. This has nothing to do with myonosyl trispar phosphate. Great video. Let's see. I already answered this one. It's a dipeptidyl peptidase 4 inhibitor, like Januvia, for example. Let's see. So I mentioned that myonosyl trispar phosphate might make baking soda obsolete, but like Zach Dancy says, I mean, baking soda will never be fucking obsolete at $2 a box. But I remember running an experiment, and I think this is somewhere on my YouTube channel. I ran, 20 grams to 30 grams baking soda per day for like a month straight or 2 weeks straight. And then it literally turned my blood black or purple. Like I had legitimate Klingon blood. And I still can't figure out why that is. Is that from the acid-base balance or through more oxygen delivery or carbon dioxide removal, turning my blood a different color? I remember going to the clinic and they drew my blood and the nurse was like, what the hell? And I was like, what the fuck? So never again. But the stamina boost and the lactic acid removal or lactate removal and the metabolic waste removal and 30 grams baking soda per day, insane. It was also bloated as fuck because, 30 grams of baking soda is what? 9 grams of sodium per day? It's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot. Let's see. Zach Dancy also asks, Steve, what do I specifically look to use this for breast cancer? My girlfriend has breast cancer and I really would like to help her with the process. This looks promising and I would love to try this with her. Thank you so much for your body work. So unfortunately, I don't really know much about cancer. I've never really researched it, right? We're focusing here on performance-enhancing drugs, not medical conditions that can be resolved with these kinds of medications. But if I find something in the scientific evidence that's interesting, like how to resolve fluorona long hauler syndrome or cancer in this case, then I will report it. But I can't remember reading anything specifically for breast cancer. Right? Breast cancer is, in many cases, is estrogen positive. And there's various kinds of breast cancer. Now, what myonosyl trispar phosphate does by increasing the oxygen delivery to metabolically active tissues, it reduces angiogenesis. It literally reduces vascular endothelial growth factor and a couple other of these angiogenesis promoting peptides that your body would otherwise produce when you're in a hypoxic state or when you have cancer. That's literally what cancer does. It increases these angiogenic peptides, and thus the cancer can literally metastasize and grow all over the body and feed on everything else. Right? Cancer is basically uncontrolled growth of a cell that went rogue. So if your girlfriend suffers from breast cancer, you could do the research, which I've indexed down below. I can't make any recommendations here. It's just something interesting that I found. And then after you do the research, maybe run that through ChatGPT, Grok, or Perplexity, and then discuss that with your doctor, because there's people who are specialized in breast cancer, and they might be able to say, well, it's worth a shot or worth a try before you consider something like, chemotherapy or radiation, which is far more invasive than myonosyl trispar phosphate. But it could be that, the oxygen delivery actually accelerates the cancer growth. Again, I'm not too familiar with cancer, so I would proceed with caution, do the research, and discuss it with the doctor first to see if they have any ideas, and then otherwise present them the studies, and then so they can do the research before they make up their mind. Because, there's so many different things that are anti-cancer, but from what I understand from breast cancer, the best thing to do is, if it's estrogen-positive breast cancer, is to minimize the estrogenic burden, and whether that's the use of aromatase inhibitors or selective estrogen receptor modulators, or both. Right? That's something you'll have to run past a specialist in breast cancer. Let's see. Sean Ferguson. Steve, ever thought of trying myonosyl trispar phosphate injectable version currently being sold as a horse veterinary blend? Comes in 10 milliliter vials dosed at 200 milligrams per milliliter. We used equipoise as a veterinary drug for years before underground labs did it. if you were to use it, what dose would a human use? So I didn't really look into injectable versions, right? I know MA was thinking about making an injectable version, and maybe it's already on the website. I just haven't had a look. I got the oral version here, but I'm running that, testosterone YK11 experiment, and I'm not allowed to use anything else, unfortunately. But as soon as that experiment is over, then you bet your left testicle and all of your brain matter that I'll be on oral myonosyl tripyrophosphate again, and then maybe switch to injectable. And then we can make a small note, cliff note somewhere in the comment section, which one is better, right? Now, I don't mind running that experiment at all, but right now I'm in the middle of another experiment. I haven't seen that as being sold as a horse veterinary blend. The last time I took horse or camel veterinary blends from a horse or camel supply website, quote unquote. I took Pentosan Gold, and 2 injections gave me the worst post-injection pain ever. Yeah, worse than GHK copper, worse than gonorrhea, allegedly. That's not from injection. Well, it depends on how you look at it. Oh my God, I'm shooting fire out of my dick. That's allegedly very unpleasurable. And injectable carnitine, first couple of times, it's very painful, obviously. So I'm not really in favor of taking veterinary medications. I would rather wait until one of these sponsors or affiliates produces something, because the injectable YK11 that I'm running right now from MA, it's basically pain-free. So, and that's just MCT oil. So yeah, I would definitely run it, but the dose, I don't know, maybe start with 100 milligrams per day, and then for 2 weeks. So you do like 2/5 of my recommendations at the highest level, right? If you're going to inject, you're probably a bodybuilder, and you probably need higher dosages. So I would go, instead of 250 milligrams oral myonosyl tripyrophosphate, to 100 milligrams injectable myonosyl tripyrophosphate. That's every single day during the loading phase, 2 to 3 weeks, and then 3 times per week during the maintenance phase, sort of say, just to keep the hemoglobin affinity or the oxygen carrying capacity and the hemoglobin affinity going. Man, it's been a long day. Too many consultations.